Look, the left and the right agree on this, that we know there's an age of retirement and an age at which people start to deteriorate, yet our government is run exclusively by, septuagenarians and octogenarians. Maybe, with all due respect, these people should be given an opportunity to retire off into the sunset and just relax with a coconut and a cigar or something.
Have you ever heard of El Presidente Salazar of Portugal? This is can I tell? It's a very quick story, but this is one of my favorite stories. So, Portugal had one of those presidents for life. Like I think it was in the 60s or the 70s, but he's like El Presidente, but he's a dictator, right? He has a stroke, and he is on his deathbed, and the rubber-stamped Parliament of Portugal goes, all right, enough of this nonsense. It's time to go back to being a democracy. Let's join the rest of Europe. We're going to be a liberal democracy. Okay, everybody all in favor? We're a democracy now. But then he recovers, and they go, uh-oh. But he's okay, but he's kind of winded. So what they do is they send him to like the presidential winter palace, and for the next 3 years of his life, they don't tell him he's been ousted, and they send in lying orderlies to come in every day and go, yes, Mr. President, we did as you said, and we firebombed Lisbon or whatever, and they just give him he's living in Truman's Show for the last 3 years of his life. I think it's a great thing to do with dictators. It's just give him a fake send off. Yeah,
that's what they did with Napoleon. I mean, they knew they can't martyr the guy. That's you got to be careful you don't martyr the guy.
He knew though. He knew he was. he didn't realize. He didn't think he was running Paris. That would have been funny.
Oh yeah, he knew he was. Yeah,
left. That's why he came back. A lot of people recommended that, or a lot of the left was saying about Trump. Put him in a fake White House and then just film it into a reality show where he thinks he's president.
Yeah, part of me thinks that's what's happening with Biden. Like he's sitting there thinking he's playing video games, but Kamala handed him a controller that's not plugged in, and she's
Seamus,
actually the one doing it.
You have it backwards.
Yeah,
the American people are being shown a TV screen.
It's so true.
And we're being told he's the president.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, I'm pretty sure things are being run by the people around him. The man can't finish a sentence.
Well, I don't. I've said this several times. I think the people around him are trying to do what Biden wants, but a man that incoherent makes it impossible. So they're all, the joke is like they're all sitting around the table, and you've got Millie and like Kamala, and then Biden's like, "Oh, this is Ukraine thing. Come on, man! Did you get what? Come on, man!" And then they're all sitting around looking at each other like, "What do we do? What did he say he wants us to do?" And then Trump was like, "You got Vladimir Putin. Get him on the phone and turn it on a shot of pressure." And they're like, "Okay." And then they all get up and leave the room, and they're all looking at each other like, "What do we do? What are we supposed to do? I have no idea. What did he say?" And then they just start pressing random buttons to like, "We're working, Biden." So they're technically the ones doing things, but it's like without a nucleus, without a cohesive core guiding you. Like, for all of Donald Trump's faults, he was telling people to do things, and they would do them and things worked out. Now, Joe Biden is muttering to himself half the time, and they're just pressing random buttons, hoping something happens. Look, you look at the Afghanistan withdrawal. Oh. Who in their right mind would be like, we're going to withdraw from the Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling the Afghan security forces? Then we're going to try and evacuate people to the civilian airport once everyone's found out.
Hold on. If our main goal is just to do it on the anniversary of 9/11, if that's the top goal, it makes sense. If you're just doing it for symbolic purposes, if that's your top people. I think I looked at the 2020 election, and I thought America had a choice between getting on a train that keeps getting lost or getting on a train that hits cows for fun. I thought it was a really, really bad choice that we all had to make on that one.
This is the problem with first past the post voting systems.
Yes.
Yeah, you end up with two people, and everyone just hates the other one so much they vote for the other one. And you end up with, look, in 2016, I was like, I'm not voting for Trump. And Hillary Clinton, yeah, right. I'm definitely not voting for Hillary Clinton. When 2020 came around with critical race theory and everything that was going on, and then Trump released his, second term campaign positions, I was like, I'll vote for that. It's not so bad.
What was? Can you because I'm unfamiliar with your whole arc. I know that you used to be a Bernie guy, right?
Oh yeah, but Bernie lost his mind.
So okay, so it I wondered if maybe it's just you're a populist and
probably
is that it?
Oh, Bernie Sanders in 2015, open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. So look,
on behalf of the neoliberal shills, we rather like open borders. We've been in favor of that for a while.
So with Bernie, you've got a guy who's supported by a lot of working class guys. He says on stage at a debate, the gun control debate is an urban versus rural issue. And people in Vermont like guns. So it's not Democrat, Republican, or whatever. There are Democrats who like guns. And I'm like, I appreciate hearing this. Because I think, and back then I was not a staunch, 2A absolutist for the most part. I was like, I think there's some reasonable discussion there, but it felt reasonable because I know that people who live in rural areas have a different expectation on guns. So I lived in rural, outside of Miami in the Redlands back in, I think this was 2015. And so I understood what was going on in the neighborhood as to why people liked guns. There were illegal immigrants who were committing crimes and killing people, and it happened in this area. And so all of a sudden I'm like, I think I understand why people are having these conversations. But Bernie Sanders, just quickly went full on neoliberal Democrat establishment. Hillary Clinton, open borders. And I was like, I don't even know what the guy stands for at this point, other than having a bunch of houses and saying, if you want to have several houses, you can write a best-selling book too. Donald Trump was a blowhard. He was bombastic. But with 2020, you have his push against critical race theory. He banned, not explicitly critical race theory, but the tenets of CRT, which violate the 1964 Civil Rights Act. He banned that from government contracts and in government training, which is really, really good. I knew Biden would overturn that and once again bring racist, overtly white supremacist ideology, segregation back into government under the guise of not being white supremacist. And they would accuse the people who are fighting for civil libertarianism of being the racists. So I'm like, that's one for Trump. Trump set a timeline for withdrawing out of Afghanistan. I said, I'd like to see that followed through. Look at what Biden did. Hey, I was right to vote for Trump. Joe Biden screwed that up miserably. Donald Trump is also for school.
Wait, didn't Biden delay the timeline?
He delayed the timeline, and then he screwed up the withdrawal outright.
Okay.
So Donald Trump
surrendered.
Yeah, how do you think it would have been different than what Trump would have done in terms of Afghanistan?
So there's a question. Why, even Bill Maher mentioned, why didn't Vladimir Putin invade Ukraine under Trump? Donald Trump was a madman. Is a madman, to the point where the left said, he's a madman. And the right was like, he's a madman. And I'm like, I think we all agree he's a madman. But, in varying ways, right? The right was like, he's eccentric and he's going to do it. He's going to do shocking things. Trump said recently that he was talking to Putin and said, if you go into Ukraine, I'll hit Moscow. I'll nuke Moscow. And he's like, he believed me a little bit, maybe 5-10%, but it's enough, right? I don't like that idea that our president's going to be like, I'll kill 10 million civilians. But then you look at, what Trump was actually doing during this whole conflict. We saw the crushing of ISIS, which Russia was probably like, okay, well, this guy's not crushing my allies like the Obama administration was doing with Syria and basically arming the rebels in the Middle East.
When he was talking about withdrawing from NATO, which would be very pleasing to Russia, right? So if I was Russia and the president was talking about withdrawing from NATO, I would not want to antagonize NATO. Because I wouldn't want to give them a rationale
except
to continue existing.
if you understand Trump, you understand he plays what's called the big ask. What Trump was saying, and many argue he saved NATO. Trump went to NATO and said, you're not paying your fair share for military, and you're expecting the American people to do it. I hear that, and I'm like, he's right.
That is true.
I'm absolutely sick of the U.S. being the world police.
The reason that they all have the social welfare programs they have is because they don't have the military we have. We're funding the military.
And if Russia encroaches on them, we have to foot the bill for them, while the people here talk crap about us because, look at those countries and everything they get. It's like, yeah, because our troops are over there, and they shouldn't be. Well, what ends up happening is they start paying a little bit more. What did Trump say when he went to this NATO meeting and he said, Germany, you're dependent on Russia. Why is the U.S. footing the bill for NATO to protect you from Russia, and then you're dependent on their oil? You keep doing deals with them. He was right about all that. So the reason why I think Vladimir Putin didn't invade Ukraine partly is because Trump is a bit... What's the right word for unpredictable and a little crazy, right?
Erratic?
Erratic. Good word. Erratic.
Okay.
And so Putin genuinely, I would imagine to a certain degree, was probably like, I'm not sure what he would do if I made these moves. Now, Biden, he's predictable. But with Donald Trump, you get the crushing of ISIS. Syria is Russia's ally. We don't like ISIS. The United States liked ISIS, the government did, because it was destabilizing the Assad regime, and the United States and Western powers wanted to build a pipeline through Syria. So it was also convenient for the West to be like, uh-oh, we accidentally gave weapons to a bunch of jihadis. Trump goes in and blows them all up. You can say, for better or for worse, the drone strikes and all that stuff, but ISIS was decimated under Trump. So, of course, Vladimir Putin isn't invading. The one way these leftists like to put it is they're like, because Trump was playing to Putin's agenda. And I'm like, crushing ISIS, staying out of Ukraine's affairs, and actually allowing things to semi-stabilize, like the Abraham Accords. Oh, it's no wonder Putin was so upset. But if you're like, that's Putin's agenda, what's your agenda? War? War in Eastern Europe? War in the Middle East? I don't want any of that. I don't think we should be the world police. So when I saw what Trump was doing, I said, I like these things. It's enough for me to vote for. Trump tried getting our troops out of Syria. You know what happened? A high-ranking official lied to the American people about how many troops were in Syria to keep them there.
It's insane.
That is our commander-in-chief saying the American people want our troops out, and I'm going to make it happen. And they said, yeah, don't worry, Trump. There's only 200 left. Trump tried getting them all out, and they said, we can't do it because of the oil. So Trump publicly comes out and says, we're going to keep 200 people in there, for the oil. And he blurts it out, and I'm like, good. Tell people what we're doing there and why we're doing it. You know what happens? One of the first reports we get when Biden gets back in office is that U.S. troops started moving through Syria again. Do you think Vladimir Putin was happy about that? But Syria is an ally of Russia, and Russia has a naval base in Tartus. So when the U.S. is in a country that Russia is allied with, it's not surprising that Putin's going to be like, fires the missiles or whatever. So look, Donald Trump, far from perfect for a lot of ways. I believe that he represents the worst of American culture. Talking privately on a bus or whatever about what, women let you do it. All of these things are crude and crass. He does not represent the office very well in terms of decorum. But when you look at how corrupt the Democratic establishment has been and are today and how they've kicked off all of this conflict, I think Donald Trump would have been the much better choice. I believe that if Donald Trump was still in office, the Afghanistan withdrawal would have gone, I wouldn't say swimmingly, but much, much better. I don't believe those 13...
Couldn't have gone much worse.
No, it was
it
was a surrender. He surrendered.
No.
The U.S. surrendered.
Joe Biden
surrendered.
Joe Biden's administration abandoned the Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without notifying the Afghan security forces. When the Afghani Marines were fighting for their lives, Joe Biden did nothing to assist them. In fact, they didn't even know what Biden was doing.
Whenever I abandoned an Air Force base, I always text.
Always, every
I'm
single
like, hey,
time.
just so you, FYI,
Even let them know.
FYI,
Says
11 p.m. I'm going away.
Andrew, it's
alarm.
considered proper to do it in person. To
know
go
what?
to them and let them know.
I tend to ghost. I know you're not
Breaking
supposed
up by
to.
text.
This is what
I
Biden
just,
did.
I'm like, I don't really like Canada anymore. It'll figure it out.
Take a look at Keystone Pipeline getting shut down. So anyway, back to... Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.